Good evening, good afternoon for all of you, and I'm very happy to be here and to have the chance to present to you an initiative called CADS, which exists in fact since about 10 to 12 years. And originally it was founded by a few companies who started to discuss and exchange knowledges about substances used for producing shoes. That was the starting point back in 2007. And meanwhile, CADS grew and became more effective and more open to many participants, and I'd like to explain it a little bit more in detail. Well, first of all, I guess everybody of you may ask yourself what does CADS mean? These four letters. CADS stands for Cooperation for Assuring Defined Standards for Shoe and Leather Goods Production. And within the few words, you already see the purpose and the objective of CADS. It means that companies work together, they try to define standards, that means requirements, and not only defining it, but also measuring it and make sure that the requirements are well done within the production. So when I say cooperation, meanwhile, it is an organization driven by membership. That means the companies have to join the initiative, becoming a member. And meanwhile, we have more than 80 companies working in the field, in the sector of producing shoes, footwear, and leather goods. And the companies are coming mostly from the industry side, but also from the retail side and from the supply side as well. That means producer of materials needed for a production of shoes. And also, and I think that is very important, there are many institutes testing shoes and leather goods. They are also partners and part of this cooperation and bring in their knowledges, which is very important for the work of CADS. And when I talk about companies and membership, here are a few labels which are very known, and I'm sure you know most of them. These are all members of this group, and they are devoted to work properly according to standards which are defined before. Well, I explained the name of CADS, and besides the original task, it's also a purpose and an objective to generate the knowledge and to spread the knowledge of the production of sustainable shoes and shoe materials without hazardous substances. And how are we doing that? Generate knowledge, that means we are defining a network and working very close within a network of working groups and exchange each knowledge the company has, and prepare this knowledge and spread it insofar as we try to give all these informations into the supply chain. And in the past we have done a lot of conferences and seminars, workshops, whatever, with the suppliers of the companies. And we did that in many countries, like in China, in India, in Italy, and other countries, everywhere where you find suppliers of our industry. Meanwhile, most of this work is done via webinars. We have prepared the equipment to invite workers, people inside of the suppliers chain to participate in these webinars and getting the advantage of information via this tool. Well, along that, what I mentioned before, there are other objectives who belong as well to the task and to the work of CADS. It's, for example, pool and forward the knowledge, as I just explained, mainly on hazardous substances. And we bring all that knowledge into regulations, requirements, which we are fixing for and preparing for the members. And further on, we also try to prevent or develop prevention developments and actively implement consumer protection. That's one of the goals and objectives as well. We initiate a lot of scientific research, analyzing potential hazards of substances used in shoes and leather goods. Along with that, we try to develop replacement substances and processes and encourage, enhance this development. Once in a while, we do publish studies, and when I talk about studies and research, we also publish it in manuals. And one of the most respected and well-known manual, meanwhile, in our industry is a manual about avoiding chromium-6. It's a manual making clear for the people involved in the process of tanning how to work properly in order to avoid this substance. Well, you may ask that how do you do this? Because many of you know that the supply chain is very complex in our industry as well, in the textile and the clothing industry, but also in footwear and leather goods industry. And here I have a slide showing you the amount of pairs of shoes which come on the German market alone each year. So you see it's quite an impressive number, around 690 million pairs of shoes on the German market each year. And if you look on the countries, you see that a big part is done by China, which stands for 47% of all imports of shoes and leather goods into Germany. Coming back to the work of CADS, I want to show you as well some ideas or some concrete examples how the working groups are structured. One working group is about safe handling of process chemicals. Another working group is on chemical substances in finished products and raw materials. There's our own working group dealing with testing procedures and standardization, which is also very essential because I'm not sure whether you are aware of that, but there are many institutes on the market and many tests are done by each institute in a different way. So it's important to make sure that all the institutes work according to the same line. One working group deals with leather in general, but at this point I would like to show you or tell you that if it comes to footwear, only 26% of all footwear in Germany is with leather upper. That means the rest of the footwear you all wear is or are no leather shoes. They are probably textile shoes or plastic. Well, what else do we have? We have wet processes in textile and coating. It's another working group, safe handling and use of biocides. And there's a seventh one, just founded a few months ago. It's about social standards because CADS comes historically from the avoiding of dangerous substances. Meanwhile, it's also dealing with social compliances and social standards. and as well with environmental protection in general, like wastewater and other stuff. So for that, we have founded an additional working group. And all our companies can work within that groups, exchange their knowledges, and proceed in improving their business. Well, I hope I could give you a short overview about what is CADS doing, where it comes from, how it is organized, and maybe a last hint or a last word. We are not isolated working within our group alone. We are connected with many partners, with trade unions, for example, with NGOs dealing with footwear and leather goods, but also with initiatives like most of you probably know SAC, Textile Alliance in Germany, Leather Working Group, the Dutch Covenant, but there are many others. I don't want to mention all of them, but it's a very active networking. So thank you for your attention.